Hey there. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're glad to be here for our monthly edition, if you will, of Q&A with Collin Vandenheuvel from Preferred Towing here in Sarnia, and, of course, one of the stars of Heavy Rescue 401. Collin, thanks for being here again, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, and a special guest here tonight came up last minute, so if you're watching, you're in the right place for Zach Thompson from Herb's Towing in Cornwall. Zach, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And you're on call tonight, so you're kind of working, but you're doing this in between.
Yeah, we're gonna try. We'll see how it goes.
Very good. Well, we do appreciate you being here, and lots to talk about as always. We will take your comments and your questions. So we're going to chat a little bit here in the beginning, give you viewers an opportunity to start asking your questions or your comments. And as always, I will do my very best to get to all of them. We've got about an hour here that we're going to spend time with you. And I know Collin's been getting lots of messages about being grateful that we do this. So we're happy to connect with everybody there as well. Look at it's coming in already. There's our friend, Carl Freeman.
Hi, Carl.
From Oshawa. Hey, Carl. And Joseph. Hello.
Hello,
Hi,
Joseph.
And our other friend, Matt Porter. He's
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
well. What's up from West Virginia down in the USA?
Oh my.
Hi, Scott.
What's up, Scott?
And Sean Corbally out there. Oh, here
Hi,
we go.
Sean.
Oh, I see now it's happening. It's all of a sudden I can't keep up.
The floodgates have opened.
That's right. Hello, Colin, Zach, and David from Lisa. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
Hello, Lisa.
Oh, from the west to the east. All right. Well, here is this is the one that everybody wants to know. Joseph Bailey says, I'm here in the States. When is the new season of 401 coming up? We don't know yet, do we?
No, we don't have an official date. We will be keeping everyone posted. Now, down in the States, I do know it's a little bit slower. You guys get it a little bit later. I do believe season 4 is out down there now on the Weather Channel, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure.
So we don't have a date yet, but like Collin said, we'll be sure to. I know he'll put it out on his Facebook page as soon as he knows, and likely as soon as we know, that's probably when we'll get close to. We'll do another special live as well. And I can say this, and this is just my opinion. I have no knowledge of this. Collin will shut me up if I'm wrong, I'm sure. But every season so far seems to begin somewhere in January. That would be okay. So
that would be about right.
I would say that's probably what you could expect, but we actually don't know, or we tell you, right? Okay. So hello from Wellesley, Ontario. Did I say that right?
Hi, Bill.
Okay.
Hi, Scott.
Scott. Hey, Valerie.
Hello,
Hi,
Valerie.
Valerie, and Doug is listening from Calgary. There you go.
Wow. Hi, Doug.
Hey, Doug.
And oh my goodness, one of my former students. That's a little. Hey, Cameron, good to see you, buddy.
Hey, Cameron.
Professor Burrows. Yeah, I get called a lot of things.
What's up, Dylan?
All right. And there's Collins, or there's Robbie from Vancouver as well.
Hi, Robbie.
Hello, Robbie.
All right, let's get into some of the questions. This one's we'll start with Collin. Tim wants to know, never had a chance to ask Collin if he was a sports fan and what made him a Habs fan. Collin?
I can't say I'm a Habs fan. I don't really get a chance to watch much any sports really on TV. And for me personally, I like being in the event and having that live atmosphere. So I don't get into sports on TV, unfortunately. They're not for me. I have to be right there in the actual stadium.
Right. Okay. And Brandon from Edmonton, Alberta.
Hey, Brandon.
Hello, Brandon.
Doc, actually, maybe we'll ask you. Are you a sports fan, and do you have a team or?
Yeah. So I'm actually a hockey fan, and Ottawa Senators all the way.
Oh, okay. There you go. So you're missing the hockey, right?
I am.
Yeah. So have you found something like golf in the middle of all of this?
I've
It's not the same, I know.
No, and I tried getting into NASCAR, I tried getting into, all these other sports, but it's just not the same, right?
Yeah, I hear you. Well, hopefully they'll be back soon. I know I've been talking with the Sarnia Sting. Of course, they've announced here in Sarnia that hopefully it looks like February 4th. So it looks like we'll see some OHL stuff sooner than later too, which is nice. And then I have to say hello to my best friend, Ryan, who's I'll be there later, Ryan, I promise. And North Bay, Ontario is here as well.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie.
And we've got Rick from Florida.
Oh my, I wish with the temperatures.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Weather-wise, maybe. Arkansas is here as well.
Wow. Hi, Carl.
Hello, Carl.
And Bruce Mines, Ontario.
Yep. Hi, Joanne.
Hello, Joanne.
And Scott, who I forget where he said he's from. He says, I work for a towing company down here. I'm on call tonight as well. Right on. And another good friend of mine, Matt Corey's there. Hey, Corey.
Hi, Matthew.
Hello, Matthew.
And Danny Cochamilio.
Hey, Danny.
Get ready for this. Watching from Australia, Joseph Hupp.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Hi, Joseph.
Hello, Joseph.
And Merritt, BC.
Wow. Hi, Irene.
Hi, Irene.
Okay. Well, there's
All over
lots
the
of people
board tonight.
Yeah, we're all over the planet here, which is fantastic. Thanks everybody for watching. We got to move on to some questions. I know an hour seems like a long time, but it's over before you know it. Here's one. Hey guys, have you ever thought of doing an operator exchange between Highway Through Hell and Heavy Rescue 401? What do you think?
We'll let Zach go first on this one.
Oh, I don't even know where to answer on that. I'm like, it'd be kind of cool to see how they do things up in BC, right? I know when I went and I visited Collin a few times down in Sarnia, I even know it's different from what we do things down here. So it would be interesting to see what it's like down in BC.
So You say different now. Could you give us an example? Like what's different about it?
Just the nature of the job, right? Like out in British Columbia, they got the mountains and their weather is definitely a lot harsher than anything we get down here normally. So it'd be fun to see what their job is like compared to ours.
Right. Okay. Collin, your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? I've always, found it interesting how this job can differ, even just a couple 100 kilometers from, our doorstep. I was fortunate enough to go over to Europe, and I met a guy who was tow operator in Amsterdam, and that was interesting to see how they do things over there, like completely different. And he took me out on a call that night that I had visited them, and just to see how they do things, it's so much more advanced than how we do things over here, I find. So I think we can learn a lot from going and visiting other operators all over the place. So I think that'd be cool to do an operator exchange.
All right. Well, it might be could be the next show on the Discovery Channel, right? What could we'll have to come up with a name for that and suggest it.
There we go.
There you go. Zach, we appreciate you being here. I think people are happy to see you here as well. You can see in the comments already. It's some of the comment. Is that Zach from Herds Towing? Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's me.
Zach, I was talking to Collin before you actually showed up before we went live, and I said, this is really interesting to me outside looking in to see you two young fellows. Collin, you're 26 years old, and Zach, you're what, 23?
Yep.
Okay. And, I think most people know the story of how kind of Collin fits into all of this world with his father and mother at Preferred Towing. But you said you wouldn't mind maybe sharing a little bit about how you got into this towing business.
Well, it's not basically how I got into it. There's a lot of things that got me into the towing business. But I guess for some, it's ironic or different to see how I'm still in it. So my father was a truck driver, and then he was in an accident 12, 13 years ago, I'd say. And now that I'm a wrecker operator, right, it's kind of weird, like, how can you do this or whatever? But to me, it's kind of like a closure type of deal, knowing what happens out there and how myself personally, I dealt with it. I can help the families with it, I guess you would say.
Right.
But getting into it, I was actually a truck driver, and then I got towed by one of the Herb's boys, and the rest is history.
It's all right, eh?
Yeah.
What about family when you decided to kind of get into this? I mean, we know there's a lot of risk involved in a job like this, and your family supports you with the danger that goes along, or you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, no,
You've got to have that support system in place.
Yeah, so my fiance, actually, she's really supportive with it. And my mother, it was difficult at the beginning, to say the least.
Yeah.
But once she seen that I had the passion and care I do about the job, it made it easier for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, she's a mom. She's supposed to worry about her son, right? So I guess you kind of got to appreciate that. Sometimes we don't appreciate that from our parents, but at the end of the day, we know it's because they love us and they want us to be safe, right? So, this is not the normal 9 to 5 job by any means. You're sitting here with us, on a Saturday night at 23 years old, taking the responsibility of being on call. So, kudos to you for that. And thanks for sharing that story as well.
No problem.
Joseph, who I think is the one from Australia, says, a quick question for both Collin and Zach. What has been the best job you've done? Zach, let's start with you.
Oh, right down the spot, eh?
Right? Narrow it down.
Let's see.
It's hard to pick, isn't it?
No, that's it, because everyone is fun, right? It's just you got to find the one that was funner than the rest, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, maybe pick the most recent funnest.
I can't really say too much about it yet, but we did a peat moss rollover. I don't understand how it would be considered fun. It was like minus 32 or something, and it was just
fun,
wind chill like crazy. But it was just the aspect of it, right? Like it's like 2:30 in the morning. We're hand bombing bags of peat moss out of a trailer, and it was fun, but depends on what your definition of fun looks like.
I guess, right. Wouldn't be my first choice. I'll say. Right. Collin, what about you? Anything interesting lately?
Lately, it's been a wild couple of weeks. We went through a dry spell where we haven't had any wrecks in months and months and months. And then all of a sudden, we've just been hammered over the last couple of weeks. We've had a few wrecks. And yeah, we had a good one, actually. Camera crew came down to start filming. They came down 2 weeks early to film this one that we had done just 2 weeks ago. So that was kind of exciting. It was a good little job, a cement mixer on its side in a deep ditch. So can't give too many more details about that one either. But no, it was a very wild one.
They're teasing us, folks. They're teasing us. That's what it is. These are big clues, is what I'm thinking. There's a question here. I'm not sure if it's a mix-up or there's something to this, but Collin says, how long have you been doing towing for Jim's Towing Company? Does that make any sense at all?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm still with Preferred.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if you had taken something there. Okay, all right.
Nope.
Collin, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, geez. That's on the spot, too. Oh my gosh!
I should start thinking in case I get asked.
Yeah.
See what it's like, Zach? All this pressure.
That's a good question. I can't think of it off the top of my head. You know what? I'm a big fan of the Fast and the Furious movies throughout the years. More so the earlier ones than the last few. They've kind of gone a little crazy over the last couple of years. But yeah, the Fast and Furious franchise has definitely been a fun one for me.
Right. Okay. Joseph wants to know if we have any preferred swag. Great question. Yes, we do. Some new preferred towing swag with the Heavy Rescue 401 on there. Collin, talk a little bit about this. This is fairly new, like by a couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think we introduced this about a month ago, and this has got our new sweatshirts and all that. Our new T-shirts. They all have the rotator on it. So it's pretty neat to be able to give a little bit more into what we do and have the new rotator on it. It's pretty sweet. They turned out amazing. Yeah, and the fact that it's all going to the Ohana Landing, the transitional youth housing, that my mom's been working on. That's pretty awesome too. So, if you guys are looking for any merch, definitely check out our page. And I know Herbs has got some merch as well, so check them out as well. And it's a lot of fun being able to do this.
Yeah, well, and I saw some of this in person. These pictures actually don't justify how good it looks, and with the new rotator on there as well, it's kind of cool. And actually, speaking of rotator, where did I have this question? Joe Pierce says, now that you're a member of the 2 Rotator Club, do you see yourselves having an increase as well as the obvious capabilities?
Oh, by far. And I know that the guys at Herbs can attest to that, because they've had 2 rotators for many years now. But yeah, like the job scope you can do with 2 rotators is just insane. It makes the job that much easier. You can do a lot more advanced techniques with 2 rotators than you can with just one in a straight stick truck. So yeah, and we show off that capability in the next season.
More teasing. Here we go. Come on, January. Let's just skip over Christmas, right? Zach, what is your favorite thing about towing? Dylan Lear wants to know.
My favorite thing about towing, honestly, it'd be you never get the same job twice. No matter what you do, it's always different. You could do, say you're doing for a fleet, let's say. Every truck's different. Every truck's different on just from everything, from drive shafts or like how you put air in it. Everything's different. So it's always a learning curve.
Right. Do you ever have to, and this is out to both of you, do you ever have to remind yourself to not become complacent on the job?
Oh yeah. Every day.
Time. Big time. You start getting too comfortable, that's when things can take a turn.
Well, especially on the side of the highways too. You just kind of get into that rhythm, and you're working on these highways with people buzzing by you, and sometimes I don't necessarily think you get complacent, but you don't necessarily see all of the risk that there is working on the side of these highways. So I think that it's a constant battle to remind ourselves, hey, you're working beside cars that are going by at like 100, 110 kilometers per hour. Just be mindful of that. Yeah.
Because do you guys do anything to like mentally prepare yourself? Like, we always talk about, I'm sure you guys have to keep yourselves in shape, because you're bending, you're crawling around, and you're heavy lifting and yourself. But what about the mental side of all of this? Do you do anything to prepare yourself each day, or do you have, talk about the mental side of it?
Ooh,
I don't really have a routine. I mean, I do the same thing every morning, right? I wake up, have breakfast, get a coffee, and start my day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when you're going out on some of these wrecks, where there's been casualties or something like that, it's that does take a little bit of warming up. You're going out to something like that. It definitely it's hard on you, and you have to kind of put yourself in the place that you're going out there to make things better. You didn't cause the situation. You're just going out there to help the situation out. And for me, that's more along the lines of what I have to do to get mentally prepared for that sort of stuff. The daily job, obviously it's a tough job, and you don't know what you're going to come across. But yeah, you just you wake up with a good attitude and go to work and put forth what you can.
Yeah. Very good. A clear head, I'm thinking, is get all those personal distractions. I think you probably have to leave the personal stuff at the door when you start your day, and then pick it up when you get back, because you can't have. There's a lot of emotion that goes into the job that you do.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I think we lost Dave.
I think so.
I guess we're good. Oh, there we go.
Zach's going, woo!
We're gonna run this show. I don't know.
You could have done it. I got too many buttons in front of me here. Here's one from Scott Ramey. Have any of you guys been to West Virginia? We do some pretty good recoveries down here. We have some big mountains.
I've been through there a couple times. I haven't done any recoveries down there, but I dropped off a trailer down there a few years ago, actually, and I've been through a couple times, and the roads out there are just amazing. You know, for me, I get a little bit of vertigo when I'm going up the hills because I think I'm going downhill, and it's like, oh, it just makes you dizzy sometimes. So I don't know how you guys do that.
Yeah, I haven't been out that far yet. I've been, say, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire. I haven't been quite to West Virginia.
Yeah, I've been through Virginia on my way to Charlotte, North Carolina. Yep. It wasn't in a big truck by any means, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I thought we were going down.
Yeah, it's the oddest feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, and I let Jennifer drive, so I just kind of read a book or something. That's good, very good. And Facebook's playing tricks on me. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Matt Porter, friend of ours here, says, thank you, Zach, for what you do at Herbs. Hopefully I will meet you at some point like I have with Mr. Burrows and Colin, Gary, and Tammy. Yeah, there you go.
That'd be fun. Yeah, come on down and we'll give you a tour of everything we got.
There you go. Sounds good. Zach, I've asked Colin this question before, but I mean, you're kind of getting a little bit of celebrity status with this Heavy Rescue 401. Are more people coming up to you in person, recognize you? And if they do, how are you handling that?
My fiance says it best. You're famous in a small town.
Right, I hear you.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, a lot of the tows I do, they're like, hey, you're that guy from that TV show. And it's like, yeah, I am. Or you get the people who, hey, are you part of that TV show? And it's like, oh, I don't know. Am I?
Right. So you have fun with it, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, at a young age for both of you here, you know, you're having an impact, right, on people. Like, you know, even just the whole slow down and move over slogan. And I've asked this to Colin before, so I know. But Zach, do you understand that what you're doing and being a part of Heavy Rescue 401, you're having an impact on people's lives?
Yeah, I know for sure. And they get an in-depth look of what we deal with, right? So when we're out on a job, they get to see what we get to see, and yeah, I think it would help them visualize what we're dealing with.
Yeah, and like you say, you sometimes you're dealing with families that are it's not all fun and games in what you do. There's a lot of emotion and tragedy that can happen in the jobs that you do, right?
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, here's a question for, well, it says Colin, but I'm sure it can be for both. Colin, if you weren't working in the tow wrecker business, what would be your next choice career-wise? Chris from Mobile.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's hard when you've grown up in a business trying to think of what you would do outside of it. And I mean, everything that has brought me here over the years, I don't know, it's hard. I'm very passionate about cars, you know, so it would probably still be something in the automotive industry. I just don't know what. I'm not overly mechanically inclined, but I am working my way through a lot of things and pulling things apart to learn how to be more mechanically inclined. So,
right.
Maybe a mechanic in another dimension world.
Right. When you go to a scene, do people expect you sometimes to kind of be a mechanic and, hey, is there a way you can fix my car right here?
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, they're always like, oh, you must know what's this mean when my car is doing this? And you know, yeah, if you've seen it a few times, you can kind of say, okay, yeah, that's this. The simple things I can get, but again, I don't like doing the job of a mechanic because, you know, I can understand if I tow a car to their shop, they're not going to like it, and they say, well, the tow guy said it's this. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't want the mechanic saying, well, tell the tow guy to tow it like this. Like, yeah, no.
Right.
So I just kind of leave that alone.
Tow this, tow guy.
Yeah.
right? And your dad's a mechanic though, right, Colin?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know he always got that too. Like, well, I tow cars, truck.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I tow them to the mechanic, right?
Yeah.
Zach, do you run into the same thing?
Yeah. So you can show up for just say a boost, and they're like, "Oh, what do you
Mhm.
think? What do you think is draining the batteries?" Or it's like, I don't know. Well, it's just a process of elimination, right? And you sometimes you know what the answer is, but like Colin said, you can't tell them that because if it's not it looks terrible on you, right? So
Yeah. And you have relationships with all these garages that you're towing
Yeah.
to, or body shops, and you want to keep those relationships, right?
Yeah.
Zach, if you weren't in the towing or record business, is there an alternative for you?
yeah. So I was a truck driver before, so I would probably end up going back to truck driving.
Yeah. Okay. But you're loving the towing industry, so we don't see that in the sites right now, eh?
Fair enough.
Right on. In New York is Joseph Bailey. Are you surprised how the popularity of the show has grown? Who wants that one?
I'll give that one to Colin.
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny because we think back to 6 years ago now when we were filming season 1, and we're thinking like, what is this going to be? Like,
Yeah.
we had no idea of what this would become, and we were sitting back thinking, is this going to be popular, or is it going to flop? And I like to think back to some of our camera guys the first season. They were kind of like, yeah, we might see you next year, we might not. And we're like, all right, well, we'll find out. And sure enough, the phone rang and they're coming back for a season 2, and season 2 turned to 3, turned to 4, turned to 6 now. So yeah, it's wild. And to get messages from all over the world, not just here in Canada, but from people all around the world. And as you can see on this live stream today, people tuning in from all over the world. It's fantastic, and it's wild, really.
Yeah. And it's again, it's been impactful, right? For everyone who's involved in Heavy Rescue 401, and some advocacy in there too. Like we talk about again, the slow down and move over. It's the law, right? So it's had enough. The show itself, would you agree, has had an impact on the towing industry?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that people have really started to pay attention to that. Everyone I hear from who's watched the show, they get the message. They understand that. They watch us out there working, and they're thinking, I would hate to be, standing on that side of the road and having the cars buzz by me. So most of those people are really good, and they're saying, anytime I see anything stopped on the side of the road, I'm moving over, I'm slowing down, I'm doing what I can to make sure their workplace is safe.
Yeah, 100%. Right on. Zach, this one's for you, and maybe Colin can answer it too, but Tommy Lund says, Zach, what was it like seeing yourself on TV for the first time?
It was wild. I remember we had my whole family over, and it was like a heavy rescue 401 viewing is what we called it. And yeah, they were all over, and it was wild. Like I can't even put into words, right? Just because I grew up watching the show, and then to be on it, it's a pretty surreal feeling to have.
Yeah. Even
now, like, just you're watching TV and you see yourself on the ads. It's like, hey, whoa, I forgot I do that.
Right. Oh yeah. And your fiance, she's got to be like, yep, that's my man.
Oh yeah, she's always like, yeah, you make sure everyone else stays away from you. And I'm like,
yeah, oh yeah, right. Good. Keep the stalkers away.
No, that's it.
Just saying. All right. Stanley says, I love your show.
Thank you, Stanley.
Bear with me. Facebook's giving me a hard time again. Okay. Shout out from Northern Ontario.
Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Okay. This one's a little close to home here, Colin, but Melody Halliday, what's your seeing the aftermath point of view on some of these more dangerous intersections that have bad accidents, like Petrolia and Kimball Road here, Colin?
Yeah, so that one's been a hot topic over the last couple of weeks because of the last couple of accidents in the last few months. And you know, I get that there's a lot of ideas floating around on how to make those intersections safer. And realistically, I personally don't know if those methods will make it safer because they do have a lot of things in place like the rumble strips. They've got the stop sign, the oversized stop sign. They've got the flashing lights, and yet people still seem to miss those intersections. You know, it's more a thing I find as a driver, and the common thing I find with those intersections is, you know, they're on the country roads. You get bombing along, and you just kind of you get complacent, I want to say, and you start to just kind of daydream. And that's more or less what I find happens on these roads is people just start to get kind of daydreamy, and they're just going along, and they miss the stop sign, they miss the flashing lights, they miss the rumble strips, whatever it may be. And yeah, unfortunately, the last two accidents have been fatals. You know, it's hard. It's hard seeing those, especially recurring at the same intersection. But you know, at the same time, I think a lot of it is just driver safety, and if someone can take the time to really remind themselves before they get behind the wheel that, hey, you know, yeah, I may have a long trip ahead of me, but I have to stay focused. I have to be, you know, aware of what I'm doing. That's the biggest thing, really.
Yeah. Well, we talk about distracted driving a lot, and that's a great question, Melody. Thanks for bringing that up. We talk about distracted driving a lot, you know, with these things, but really, like, I think back before we even had cell phones, like just gabbing with somebody while we're driving. Like Jennifer, when I'm driving, she doesn't like my driving. I don't like her driving. But when I'm backing up, for example, don't talk to me. I need silence. I don't even have the radio on. Or that's distracted, right? Or even, I don't know, you get the tunes going and you're going down the road and that's my favorite ZZ Top or whatever. And next thing you know, like you say, we're complacent. So we really have to know our destination and how we're getting there. And I think sometimes our vehicles have kind of become sometimes they're a mobile office. It's just where we spend it's a luxurious ride sometimes now too, right? So there really isn't, that's probably the biggest thing. Like what you're saying is it's up to the driver to avoid these things from happening. It's not the road that's the problem, right? Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, everyone's talking about putting a roundabout in that intersection, but you know, I can guarantee you for the first month that roundabout's going to be there, there's going to be cars that are going to be launching over there, and I'll be going picking them up out of the ditches anyways. But well, Brights Grove's a good example of that, right? I think I passed you one day and you're like, yep, on the way to the roundabout.
Yep.
So
we've had a few there, and it's just people have to be, you know, focused.
Yeah. Zach, do you have any input on what we're talking about? Do you have similar intersections in your neighborhood?
Not so much intersection, but there's one stretch of the highway, and for some reason, I mean, it's just a hot spot, and it's nothing like it's just a flat stretch of road, but it's just we think it's the fact that it's so flat and that there's no curves or nothing. People just kind of, like Colin was saying, just start daydreaming, and that's it.
Airport Road out here, that's another common one, right, Colin?
Yeah, Airport Road, and actually just between the 34 and the 25 exits on the 402, that one we've had, I can't even count how many accidents of people just passing out, falling asleep there. That's a common spot. You know, that's the neat thing about our stretch of the 402 and Zach's stretch of the 401. You know, they're very similar in terrain, very flat, kind of really boring sections of highway. So yeah, a lot of people.
It's the truth, though.
Yeah,
402.
A lot of people get bored.
I hate driving to London. It's boring.
Yep. I'm
Yeah.
with you.
Right. Now, saying that it's boring, the Highway 402 was not boring about 10 years ago. Brought up by
No.
Adele Richards here in Sarnia. 10 years ago, Sarnia was hit with Snowmageddon on Highway 402. Was last day with the lips. I don't know.
Yeah.
Preferred towing involved. Was preferred towing involved with that?
Yes, we were involved. I personally was not towing at that point. I was actually still just between getting my G1 and G2 license. So, a funny little story from that time period was during Snowmageddon. I remember everything got canceled. All my classes were canceled. School was closed and all that. My driving instructor calls up and says, "Hey, everyone's canceling. I'm assuming you want to do the same." I'm like, "Do you want to go for a drive?" And he's like, "If you want to go for a drive, we'll go for a drive." So I'm like, "Sure." So I remember we're driving around this little Sunfire. The streets are completely empty. There's snow drifts that are higher than the freaking hood on this car. And we're getting stuck at every single corner trying to get this thing out. And he's like, "Well, you're going to get a good lesson on how to drive today." I was like, "Yes, I will." But yeah, that was a very wild event down here, and that kind of touches on what we want to touch on about winter driving coming up. But yeah, this it was wild. I remember my dad going out, getting the first call Sunday night, Monday morning, and then I didn't see him for 3-4 days, and then he came home with the rotator, and he was dead. He passed out for a couple hours before they started getting more and more and more calls again. So I was out. I was getting the rotator ready back again, getting all the snow off of it, getting it cleaned up. And, this was back when the rotator wasn't quite quite as nice. I think the doors didn't seal quite right, because I remember the cab was just full of snow, but mind you, the wind was just blowing like crazy. You couldn't catch a break out there. It was just so cold. The wind was blowing. But yeah, the cab was full of snow, so I was cleaning out the cab of the truck, scraping off all the ice and the snow, so that the truck was going to be a little bit lighter, because I had to have pulled off at least 1,000 pounds of snow when he got back. It was wild. And then I remember going out on the last job with him, and that was one of the first heavy recoveries that I went out with out on the highway with my dad, and that was something different. It was right out front of the Sarnia scales, and there was a rolled over truck loaded with paper, and I remember having to offload the paper and get the truck up on the road. But that was a wild storm, and I think that was 11 days after the storm had hit that we were pulling that last truck out of there. Yeah. It was just crazy.
Yeah. Zach, have you ever had to deal with anything that magnitude?
Not during the winter, but for some reason, it was two springs ago. It was just we couldn't keep up. I don't know. Like it was a wet spring, is what we call it. It was just rain nonstop, so the roads were always just covered in rain, and vehicles were hydroplaning. And we went on a 4 or 5 day binge of just nothing but wrecks, and it was pretty wild.
Wow. Collin just mentioned in there a little bit about sleep.
Oh.
Sometimes things like Snowmageddon is hopefully we never see anything like that again, but you never know, right? And there's still those, like Zach, you're talking about, even in a wet spring, it doesn't have to be wintertime that keeps you busy. When do you hit that point of like, I just have to stop? I can't keep. I know you probably push yourself, right? But you talk about safety and being focused. What's that point for you, Zach?
Well, being from my background with my father, right? I don't let myself nearly get pushed as hard as, say, some of my coworkers would. I find some of my coworkers push themselves a little harder and longer than I would. But me, I can't do it to myself nor to my family to push like I would like to.
Right.
So when I start feeling a little tired, I'll call it quit. Like it's just not worth it for my family to receive another phone call like that. Or
Collin?
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the times you're running on adrenaline, and um, you know, I think back to a few years ago when we were doing the tomato and propane wreck, and that was the longest wreck that I had worked on. Um, you know, we were 16 hours on just that wreck, and then I had to go and help pull a snowplow that got stuck out of the ditch, and we were another 4 hours working on that. You know, and then plus all the work that we had done previous in the day before we got the call for the propane and tomato wreck. So, you know, yeah, it's one of those things like I was just so hopped up on adrenaline. I just kept pushing through it. But,
Yeah.
you know, as soon as I got back to the shop, it was like, okay, I'm done. I can't go anymore. That's it.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah, you have to know your limits in this business because you can't push yourself. If you get, you know, you can get yourself in trouble real quick when you start pushing yourself over the edge.
I remember that propane and tomato wreck. I'm still actually quite scarred every time I see a tomato. It's your mom called Jason and I, as she called many, to come out and help offload the truck. And you know, I can tell you, it was super cold, and we didn't probably even realize how cold it was till we got there. And I could only go so long, and then I had to hop in the truck and warm up, and I just couldn't go anymore. And I remember sitting there thinking, and these guys are still out here for another day. Like I just, and it really got me thinking about what you have to go through sometimes as part of the job. But then, you know, knowing your limits, I guess, is really important. And everybody's probably got a different threshold for that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I guess recognizing that. Let's talk a little bit more about, you know, Collin, you kind of started leading into the whole driving safe with, we haven't quite had a big snowfall here yet. But the first snowfall and the first day of spring usually seem to be the busiest times, right? But
Yes,
winter's coming. What do we start to see now?
You know, and it's funny. I got the memories from just over. Was it just this week? Actually, was a year ago from that major snowfall where we got like almost 2 feet of snow overnight in November. And I was on call for that night, and all I remember was it just phone started ringing at around like 8 o'clock, and I didn't stop. I went all the way through the night, and then all the way up to 5 p.m. the next day. But you know, and that's the thing is, you know, it just I find that it always catches people off guard. You know, we live in Canada. The snow is going to come no matter where you are in Canada.
Right.
You know, we're gonna get snow. It's coming. So I find that people kind of get in this lull. It's like, oh, well, this fall has been really mild. It's going to be kind of just a blah year, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden we're going to get this first snowfall in the next couple of weeks, and people are just going to be going crazy. You know, and the thing that people need to prepare themselves for is, you know, these winter conditions. You know, make sure that your car has snow tires on it, and obviously don't push yourselves. If you're getting into a snowstorm, you know, knock the speed down a little bit, because a lot of people just sit there with the pedal to the metal, and it's like, oh well, you know, it's fine. You know, and it is fine. Yeah, you're driving in a straight line until you come to that first corner, and then all of a sudden you don't turn.
Yeah.
Or if you have to stop.
Sorry to interrupt there for just a minute, but you said tires. Let's talk about tires. And actually, we've got a video we're going to play a little bit later too about that. But snow tires are snow tires. All season tires are not snow tires. Is that, am I wrong?
No,
what?
They're summer tires. As you know, what they say, all seasons they're summer tires. You know, they work okay in the fall, they work okay in the spring, but they're primarily they're summer tires.
They're not designed for the cold.
No.
What do you mean by that, Zach?
Well, you think of a winter tire, right? The reason why they're called winter tires is the cold. The rubber doesn't get affected as much when it's cold, right? Like a summer tire, they're softer rubber.
Okay.
So in the winter time, they're called winter tires because the rubber is harder. So if you have an all-season tire, the rubber it's not, it sounds kind of weird, but it's just the the tire itself isn't made for
It's
the
built
colder
different.
temperatures. Yeah.
Okay. So now why, and I'm far from a mechanic, so this is a fair question. So why don't I just put winter tires on and leave them on all year?
The heat in the summer affects them dramatically, because the compound in them, it doesn't like the heat. It doesn't take as long for winter tires to warm up as it does for summer tires. So in the summer, when you get those warm temperatures, you'll actually start melting the tires off. And then what can also happen is they actually get a hard coating on the outside of these winter tires if you drive them in the hot days, and then they just don't react in the snow. They just become too tough. And I always like to use the analogy, if you've ever had one of those electric Power Wheel cars as a kid, where you'd stomp on it, and it's got plastic wheels, and it would just skid around.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly what the summer tires do.
Okay.
And I've got
I thought I had a way around it.
Yeah, no, so you don't want to get into that where you're running winter tires all year round. Yeah, they may last you for a couple of years, but they aren't as effective the next time it actually snows and gets cold out.
And I guess there's lots of people that don't have them, and I guess it's a bit of a cost factor, right? They probably go, well, I got to have 2 sets of tires now, and then I got to pay them. Well, how safe do you want to be? I guess is what it comes down to.
Would you rather want to pay the couple $100 for tires, or say a couple $1,000s for a new car at the end of it?
Right on, Zach. I'm with you. I have to go out and buy snow tires now.
Yeah.
But it really is those things that we probably take for granted, and we go, oh well, it's Sarnia, I'm not going far. If I only driving in town, I don't really need snow tires. I would think I don't know, I'd probably be more likely to need snow tires in the city as opposed to the highway. Is that, I don't know.
It's about the same everywhere.
It is just the same. Yeah.
You're going to be stopping more often in the city, and even still, the winter tires only do so good at actually stopping you. So that's the thing is, a lot of people think, oh, and that's the downside of these winter tires is people think, oh, I put winter tires on, I can drive like it's summer out. And, yeah, I've got 3 feet of snow coming up the road, but I can drive like it's, sunny, hot, warm, clear day. And, that's not the case either. You still have to treat the road with respect.
That's the same guy that owns the Collin will get this inside joke. That's the same guy that owns the 4x4 that's going to pull everybody out of the ditch.
Those are our favorite customers. I have 4x4. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, you got to get a 2-for-1 out of that, right? Yeah. Sorry for anybody who's watching who owns a 4x4. It's been a long going joke between Collin and I, but I get it. At the end of the day, it's just we're always in a hurry. I guess we live in such a fast-paced world. We kind of slowed down a little bit with all this COVID stuff, but I think as we've gotten more comfortable in the COVID world, we're moving faster again out there. And I'm not a huge fan of driving long distances, quite honestly. I want to, if I'm going somewhere, I want to get there, and that's why Jennifer drives when we go to town. So. And anything else, Zach? Do you want to add into safety tips for what's coming?
Just adjust to road conditions. If you see that there's snow on the ground, take that into mind. If you see ice, give yourself extra stopping distance and just slow right down. Yeah.
Okay. Logic, right? Be smart. All that stuff. Don't get complacent. This is all good stuff. This is probably going to be a tough question, because you've done so many, and it was sort of similar. What's the worst scene you've been on involving a tractor trailer?
Mm-hmm. I can answer that one.
Okay, go for it.
So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but we have 2 locations. So we have our Cornwall location, then we have one just a bit north of us, which is called the Vankleek Kill location. So we service the 401 and the 417 and surrounding areas. So there was a wreck on the 417, and another transport rear-ended a part transport. So that was it was a tough scene to deal with, just with extrication and everything. We had to assist with the fire department, That was by far the hard. I actually told Herb and Andrew I couldn't take it. I had to leave the scene till everything was all cleaned up and was all good, and then I was able to come back later on once everything was all settled down a bit and continue on my job. I was still rather new to the heavy towing at this point, and it was a tough one for me to swallow.
Yeah. And do you talk about that after? Like, do you sit down and you have these conversations to like again, there's a mental health side to all of this, right? Do you handle that in conversation afterwards?
Yeah. So like even after the wreck, Andrew and Herb made sure that I would say like emotionally okay, because it's all fun and games in our industry. Like you can have some really good days, and you can also have some really really hard days. And I guess that's something a lot of people don't understand, right? Is especially in cases like that where you have to help a local fire department out, or help extricate a body like that. That can be very difficult at a lot of times.
Sure. Collin?
Yeah, it's definitely it's hard going to those ones, and I've had a number of extrications that I've been a part of now. And the one that comes to mind is a more recent one, and that one I was the only one left in town with a heavy, and there was a lot of mixed messages coming across. I was told, okay, there's two transports, and then I was told, okay, there's a third vehicle in between the transports. Victim trapped inside, and then I'm being told, okay, just go out, because I was on another call with my 50 ton at that point, and I was being told, okay, we'll just go from there to the scene. And then I got called halfway through and told, no, you need to switch out to get the rotator. And then they're saying, come in from this direction, come in from that direction. And for me, that was the most challenging one, because I got really flustered, because I felt like I lost a lot of time, getting all these mixed messages, having to turn back around and go do things a little bit backwards, and then having to try to figure out which direction to come from and all that. Unfortunately on that scene, the person had passed away before. He had passed away on impact, and that was something. Even though I knew that coming up on it, there was still that chance that maybe I could have made a difference, but still, it's tough going out to those ones regardless, and it sticks with you. It really does, and it's one of those things we work through together, especially with my parents. They're really good with that stuff, at working through it with us. So, but that one is a tough one. That one stuck with me.
Right. Guys, thanks for sharing that, and it's important that we share this stuff, because we want people to understand the reality of what you guys do, right? And which is like I say, Zach, it's fun and games on great days, but then there's those days that you really have to deal with that side of things. On the other side of the note, the fun and games, we're going to have some right now. Beverly Bond says, my son Lauren's 6th birthday is tomorrow. Can you guys send him a birthday shout out?
Hi, Lauren. Happy 6th birthday.
Happy 6th birthday, buddy. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Beverly, I'm almost positive you were the one that came down to Herb's. We gave him the full tour, and he got to operate the 45-ton slider, and I even took him for a ride in the 80. Right
on. There you go. Well, happy birthday, Lauren. And 6 years old. Wow. He's a big boy. Yeah. And maybe he'll be joining one of the towing teams out there in Heavy Rescue 401, right?
I already offered him a job. So
you offered him a job? Did he say yes?
He wasn't too sure about it.
Yeah, he's got to think. Well, he's probably got some career choices to make. Stanley says, I have a great deal of respect for both and all of you. That's cool.
Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you, Stanley.
Zach, what's it like working with Andrew?
It's great. I mean, guy's a wicked mentor. You can't ask for better with him. He's got all the patience in the world, and he's willing to, if you sit down and you're flustered with something or you can't figure it out, he's right there ready to teach you right away, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, that's good to have a good mentor. Zach, I'm 23 and want to get into heavy towing. Any advice for someone who wants to start out?
Oh, have an open mind about it. Like when I first started towing, I started out on the light duties. I think that's a great place to start. You don't want to start in a heavy tow if you haven't done light duty towing. Once you get comfortable and familiar with light duty towing, start doing some medium duties and then make your way to heavies. Once you're in the heavies, just don't think you can get too comfortable with it, because like I was saying earlier, there's not one job that will ever be the same. Yep. And something Andrew actually told me, the day you get too comfortable with what you're doing is the day you're going to get hurt. So
yeah, very good. Collin, anything you want to add to that for advice?
Yeah, you know what, Zach did a very good job covering that. You definitely want to start out on the low end. And for me personally, I found that learning the light duty stuff really helped me get an appreciation for, even just a little bit of weight behind. It's one thing towing around a small trailer behind a pickup truck or something like that. When you start towing around, a pickup truck or a box truck behind a light duty truck, and you actually start feeling weight, and getting that appreciation for what it does to a truck. And how it affects your stopping and your going and all of that.
Yeah.
Then you can start to work your way up and get into the heavy stuff, because, sometimes up here in Ontario, we see weights of 140,000 pounds, truck, trailer, and load, and then that's not including our truck. So you can be towing 140,000 pounds with a 50,000 pound wrecker. You get into some serious weight when you're doing that. So you really want to, appreciate weight and understand what it does to a vehicle to affect its stopping and all that stuff before you get into the heavy game, for sure.
And learn to use your mirrors. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big bonus. Learn to use your mirrors. Does it ever get aggravating with a camera crew following you while you're working? Anyone
I get that question all the time.
All the time. Yeah. we get it every broadcast.
Yep.
No, honestly, I'll say, like I say to everyone else, like 95% of the time you don't even know they're there.
Yeah.
Like they're very good not to get in your way, and they make it very clear if they do get in their way, just let them know. And it's great. Like it's very solemnly that you do something and then you're like, okay, well, hey, can you redo that? Like, because they know it's part of the job, right? And you got to, at the end of the day, get things open and flowing again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got no problems with it.
Yeah.
They know their job and you know yours, right?
No, that's it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Collin?
And sometimes it's nice to have that extra set of eyes on the scene too.
Yeah, right.
We've had lots of times where they're sitting there saying, hey, you might want to come look at this before you do anything. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. And you don't have a problem with that, right? Because you like sometimes people, it's like they don't tell the mechanic how to do his job either, right?
Yeah.
But you really appreciate those extra eyeballs out there because it's a safety factor, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They've got our back and we've got theirs for sure.
This is a question for Call. Has your dad and you ever thought of ever expanding the business down the road?
I think there's been talks of that, and, where we are, Sarnia's kind of, I guess, not really necessarily boxed in, but we are kind of boxed in. We're at the end of the 402. There's only one way for us to go, and it's towards London. And right now, we've got Ross down there, and they do a very good job in London. So for us to expand that way, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But there's always opportunities out there, and we like to keep an open mind at what we do. And maybe one day we will open up a second location. Just see how the cards lay out for us. Yeah.
Okay. Jared hello from Arizona, guys. 75 and sunny here. You better come to the Barrett Jackson. What's that?
Oh man, Jared, you're so lucky it's 75 down there, man. Wow. But yeah, Bear Jackson is car auction that we always watch on TV. My dad and myself were fortunate enough to go down there a couple years ago to actually view it live, and it is quite the experience. If you ever get the chance to watch it, it's cool. Like you see the top of cars going across the auction block there, and both me and my dad are big car guys. So to watch that stuff and watch what it goes for, and see some of these people fighting over cars, and watching the prices go climbing up the ladder, it's quite cool. It's a lot of fun.
And your dad shared that experience with me, and there's quite a ticket to get in to do that too. So
oh yes.
Guys, we're at an hour. Are you okay with going a little bit longer still? Are you okay?
I'm good. Yeah.
I haven't got no calls yet.
Yeah,
that I know.
Good and bad. Jack Kane says, "Great show. Next time, do a 2-hour show." Hey, whatever. Here's one. Yeah, Collin, Mark Colbrand has moved on to another career, and I know that your dad and mom and everybody there are wishing him all the best. But do you look forward to training the new guy?
Yeah, you know what? It's always interesting getting to work with new people, and to kind of get their perspective, especially someone who's fresh to the towing industry. So we're looking forward. We've got a new member joining our team very soon here.
Okay.
And yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's always the first couple of weeks are always interesting.
Kind of feel it out.
You feel it out, but it's also very eye-opening for, I think, the new people coming into this industry, seeing what it really is like, because a lot of people have their kind of pre-based bias of what this industry is like. And when they actually start getting into it, they either say, wow, this is a lot cooler than I thought, or holy crap, this is a lot more work than I thought.
Yeah, it's the make it or break it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like watching a cop show on television and then becoming a cop.
Yeah.
There's paperwork involved. Yeah, right. It's not lethal weapon, folks. Yeah, I hear you. So that's good. Well, and now, do you know, like, this new person coming along, like, will they be a part of Heavy Rescue 401, or how does that work?
I'm sure they'll be on there. We are going to be training them in the heavy division, so they're more than likely going to make it on the show. That's for sure. But yeah, it's so that'll be interesting to see how they react to that too, because some people, and that was the thing too, is it's always funny when I've talked to Jamie in the past, and hearing from him saying, okay, well, I get all these emails with resumes and stuff like that. It's like, it was all people wanting to be on the show, essentially. Now we do our vetting very well to make sure that it's not someone who's just looking to get stardom, because that's not what we're in. We're actually looking for someone who wants to do this job. Yeah. So we think we found a good candidate, and we're happy to welcome them to the team.
Being on the show will just be a big bonus, right?
Yep, exactly.
What else do we got here? Okay. I couldn't imagine what you've seen over the years. There's a lot of people that think they know how you drive. But they don't. But they're hitting operators because telephones are more important than looking forward. You must see a ton of people when you're driving, especially because you're up higher too. Do you see people on their phones all the time, and that you just want to like,
well, especially in traffic.
Yeah. Sunroofs are a great, nice thing for us, because we see everything. You see someone sitting on their phone, have their phone out like this in front of them, and it's like, yeah, that's awesome. It's great. And it's funny. I think back to, well, I guess it's not really funny, but I think back to a couple weeks ago. I was driving through Toronto, and just the way people were driving, I was passing another truck, and I had people coming up on the right side, and there was maybe just enough room, there was just enough room, maybe an inch on each side, but they would make that cut in between myself and the other truck. And, just a day later, I'm looking at the news and, there's a rear end collision. A car got sandwiched in between two transports because they were doing just that. They're running through lanes, and that's the thing that we always kind of think about. And down this way, the traffic's not as heavy, so we don't see that stuff as much. So you get a good appreciation for it again when you go up to like the Toronto way and you see that, and you're like, wow, I'm glad I don't live up here.
Another one here from Henricus. Papa Bear has a question. Are you ready? Are you ready for the winter? Cables oiled and straight, chains checked. Like, do you the maintenance? Let's talk a little bit about what you have to do to get ready for the snow. Like, you talk about snow tires and summer tires. Do you guys have to change things up to get yourself ready for this? And then we'll go into wrapping things up. Collin?
Yeah, you know what? There is a lot of stuff that goes into getting winter ready. We're making sure that the trucks are equipped with essential supplies. We like to keep some snack bars and stuff like that. Keep blankets in the trucks just in case, because you know what? Even as tow operators, we get stuck. And the last thing we need is to have another snowmageddon and we're stuck out on that highway for 2, 3, 4 days, whatever it is, before either we can get back to safety or someone's coming out to help us. So we like to make sure that we're well equipped in that sort of sense. But and yeah, there is just general maintenance that you need to do to the trucks. You make sure everything's greased up, and you do that on a regular basis. It's not just a winter thing. You're making sure that the chains are all oiled, or the cables are all oiled and all that good stuff. You really have to go through these trucks and make sure that everything is in order, because it really sucks when you get out to a recover and you're like, hey, where's that? Oh, I left that on another job. It's like,
whoops,
yep.
Kind of need that.
Yep. So,
and it does happen.
Yep. It does. It does. I've forgotten many of things. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, it's just one of those things that you just have to have that mental checklist, and you're going through everything and you're like, okay, I've got this, and this. Oh, I forgot that. Okay, let's go back to the yard while I still have a chance. Grab that. It does take a lot to get ready for the winter.
Right. Zach, anything you want to add into that?
Well, like Collin was saying, like, it's all general maintenance, but I guess stuff you start looking forward to in the winter is making sure, like Bear was saying, you got your chains are all checked, your winch ropes are all straight, they're not crossed over. If you got any nicks or bends or kinks in any of the wire rope, now's the time to change them, right? Because you get a winch out on the highway, or you're a jackknife blocking the whole highway, you start winching it and your winch line snaps, and say, well, then you look like a joke, or now's the time to get everything ready and make sure you're good to go when snow starts to flying.
You ever locked yourself out of the truck?
I have.
That's embarrassing, right?
Yeah, it was good though, because it was in our own yard, so at least I knew a local towing company.
Oh, okay. It's not like you were out. Okay. There you go. Preferred Towing is out here talking, and it's got to be Tammy, because I don't think your dad even knows how to use Facebook. Right?
No, he doesn't.
He's gonna text me now. I'm sure of it. We do toolbox talks to ensure our drivers remember how to be safe in using like cones on the side of the road. Something just as simple as that makes a difference, right?
Yeah, by far. And that's another good thing to talk about is our own due diligence to make sure that we're doing what we can to be safe on the side of the roads. A lot of guys in this industry, unfortunately, get complacent, and it's like, oh, well, it'll just be a 2-minute job. I'll be out of here before, why bother putting out the pylons? Why bother putting on my flashing lights? I don't need to have my safety vest on. It's all stuff like that do make the difference sometimes between life and death. And those are the things that we have to remember as operators, not to get too carried away with and say, well, oh yeah, that'll take longer for me to do that, to set up the cones, to do this, to do that, then it's even worth. No, it's always worth doing.
Yeah, very good. Matt Porter, one of friends of Preferred Towing, and myself here on the show, hoping that we'll see you, Collin, David, in 3 weeks when Tim and I make our run into Sarnia. So we'll just explain what's happening there. So Matt and Tim did a bottle drive in the city that they live in and raised money for Ohana Landing here in Sarnia. I forget exactly the place where they live. I think it's Oshawa, maybe, or no, that's Carl.
Hamilton.
Anyway, Hamilton, right? Thanks. Sorry, Matt. So that's really cool that there's an impact that you've had on a community, but now even people outside of this community that we live here in Sarnia are giving back into our community. And I just think that's so cool that these guys have done that. And I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but they've got a couple truckloads full of bottles. So that's really cool. Let me just go through real quick here. Respect you both. Please be safe. See you on the road. Thanks.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Bear.
Thanks to all you guys. You are heroes in my books, small job or large. And Melody's, we're going to say hi to Tammy. We know that's her operating the preferred towing. We replace too many cones every year. Rather have a cone than it hit me. No kidding, right?
Cones are cheaper.
Right, that's for sure. All right, well, before we go, we've got a special video here. This is Carrie Schmidt from is that right? Did I say that right?
Yep.
Sergeant Carrie Schmidt, right? Yeah. And he's got a little message. Watch this for about 2 minutes, and we'll come back and wrap things up.
Hi, my name is Carrie Schmidt. I'm with the OPP Highway Safety Division. You may see me on Heavy Rescue 401 dealing with the emergencies all across the province. Here's a few items that you can keep in your vehicle for roadside safety. If you're ever involved in a collision, what we want drivers to remember is to stay in your vehicle. We don't want you out of your vehicle as a pedestrian, vulnerable to injury if someone else loses control around you. The first thing, having a multi-tool or some sort of tool in your vehicle that will help you either escape or cut yourself out of a vehicle where you may be trapped. If you can't open your doors, you may have to punch a window out. Having a tool or a screwdriver or a multi-tool that can break the window is certainly going to be helpful. In addition to any other emergency supplies you already have in your vehicle, having an extra jug of windshield washer fluid or hand sanitizer may be what you need to de-ice maybe your locks or take some ice off of your windshield so you can actually see out of your vehicle. If you're ever stranded on the side of the road and maybe the roads are slippery, you're not able to get your vehicle in motion, getting your floor mats out of your vehicle and putting them in front of the vehicle, in front of the tires in the direction you want to go, may give you that little extra traction that you need to get your vehicle back into motion. If you're ever involved in a collision, there could be considerable damage to your vehicle, although the vehicle still may be drivable. If you have some tape that you could use to secure a body panel or a bumper cover up from the ground so it doesn't cause more damage and more distraction. You could also use zip ties to tie things together, and that'll at least allow you to get off the highway to a safe location. Keep in mind, having these emergency supplies in your vehicle may not only be for yourself, but if you ever come across someone who is in distress that needs assistance, having these supplies could be very valuable for yourself to help someone else in need. One thing we want people to be aware of is of their presence. Know where you are. Make sure people know where you're traveling to and what route you're traveling on. If you don't arrive when you're expected, people will know where you may be and they can call for help. Many times you will have maintenance done on your vehicle, maybe when you change to your winter tires. This would be a good opportunity for you to go and inspect your emergency kit that's in your vehicle. Are the batteries that are in your vehicle still charged and in good condition? Are they still usable? I hope you learned some valuable roadside safety tips that will assist you in case of an emergency. Tune in to Heavy Rescue 401 Tuesday nights on Discovery.
All right, some great tips there for driving safely out there on the roads and the highways for sure. Gentlemen, thank you both here for joining us. And thanks to everybody, all you viewers. I'm sorry we didn't get to everybody. We just, I'm a one-man show here, so I can't keep track of everything, but I try my best out there. But before we go, I always want to give you guys a chance to wrap up. Zach, any final thoughts or words?
Thanks for having me. A lot of fun, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, would love to have you back. Collin?
You know, as always, slow down, move over. It's the law. You know, and just be prepared for the weather to be changing here, guys. Up here in Canada, at least, you know, it's going to get nasty out there here soon. So just be prepared.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks everybody for watching. Remember, like Collin said, slow down and move over. It's the law. I'm always happy to be your host. I'm David Burrows here. We'll look forward to next time on Q&A with Collin. Take care, everybody.